Let me ask you something simple. If you are the Speaker of Parliament, the third most powerful person in Uganda's constitutional order, what exactly is your job? You preside over the legislature. You protect the rules of the House. You ensure that the body responsible for making laws and holding the government accountable is itself functioning with integrity. That is the job. Not the Rolls-Royce, not the 9.6 billion shillings, not the iron sheets. This week, Uganda is watching the speakership race for the 12th parliament unfold. And at the center of it, unavoidably, loudly, uncomfortably, is the current speaker, Anita Among, sanctioned by the United Kingdom, sanctioned by the United States, accused of moving billions of shillings of public money through private accounts, named in the Iron Sheets scandal, subject to an active withdrawal of endorsement from within her own political circle, and still, until very recently, considered a frontrunner to retain the speakership. This is Explain It Like I'm from Uganda. I'm Tobias. Every Saturday we look at things properly. Today, Speaker Among, the facts, the timeline, the money, and the question that nobody in power seems willing to answer directly. Let's get into it. Point 1. Who is Anita Among? Let's start with who Anita Among actually is, because the full picture matters. She was born in Bukedea in 1973. She worked at Centenary Bank from 1998, starting as a cleaner during her school vacation, eventually becoming a cashier, and working her way up to branch manager by the time she left in 2006. That is not a small thing. That is someone who started at the bottom of an institution and built something. She went on to lecture in accounting at Makerere University Business School and Kampala International University for a decade. She lost 2 parliamentary elections in 2007 and 2011 before winning as an independent in 2016. In 2020, she joined the NRM, became Deputy Speaker, and then Speaker in March 2022 after the death of Jacob Ulanya. That is a story of persistence, of someone who built a political career through grinding work and careful positioning. Which is why what happened next is, in some ways, harder to understand. Because the person who cleaned floors at a bank in 1998 is now, in 2026, being accused of moving billions of shillings of public money in ways that no ordinary Ugandan would ever be permitted to move public money. The story of how that happened is worth understanding properly. Point 2. The money, what we know. In early 2024, a group of journalists and activists launched what became known as the Uganda Parliament Exhibition, a campaign on social media platform X that circulated leaked documents alleging questionable expenditure from the Speaker's office. The documents alleged that large sums of public money had been transferred into private bank accounts of individuals working in Parliament, not through official procurement processes, not through the established systems required by the 2015 Public Finance and Management Act, through private accounts. One document suggested that in October 2023 alone, more than 2.6 billion Uganda shillings were deposited into a staff member's accounts. The total figure cited across the allegations, over 9.6 billion Uganda shillings, is, by one calculation, more than double the entire annual public health budget for Among's own constituency, Bukedea district. The Speaker's office responded. A spokesperson said the funds were for donations, that the Speaker's office regularly received requests for help, and that officers who received the funds provided accountability for them. Among herself, addressing Parliament directly, did not engage with the substance of the allegations. She questioned the source of the documents. She suggested the campaign had been sponsored by a foreign embassy, and she attributed the entire scandal to her role in passing the Anti-Homosexuality Act. Her exact words in Parliament on that last point are on the record. I will not repeat them here, but they are in the Hansard. Anyone can look them up. What is not in dispute is this: the money moved. Whether it moved appropriately, whether the accountability provided was genuine and complete, is a question that no independent audit has yet publicly answered to the satisfaction of most Ugandans. And in the absence of that answer, the international community formed its own conclusions. Point 3. The sanctions, UK and US. On the 30th of April 2024, the United Kingdom's Foreign Office announced personal sanctions against Anita Among under its global anti-corruption sanctions regime. Asset freeze, travel ban. The UK stated she was sanctioned for involvement in significant corruption. Exactly 1 month later, on the 30th of May 2024, the United States Department of State announced sanctions against Among. The US was more specific. The sanctions were for, and I am quoting directly, involvement in significant corruption tied to her leadership of Uganda's parliament. Her husband, Moses Magogo, a member of parliament and the president of the Ugandan Football Federation, was also sanctioned by the United States. Think about what this means in practice. The US and UK together form the backbone of the international financial system. Sanctions from both countries effectively mean that a person, and by extension, the institution they represent, has limited ability to operate in the global financial and diplomatic space. No other sitting Speaker of Parliament in Uganda's history had been sanctioned by both countries simultaneously. No other sitting Speaker of Parliament in Uganda's history had been sanctioned at all. Among continued in office. She maintained support from a significant bloc of NRMMPS. She declared herself a candidate for Speaker of the 12th Parliament, and for a period she appeared to be on track to win. Point 4. The iron sheets, the Rolls-Royce, and the lifestyle. Let me talk about the iron sheets, because that scandal predates the financial allegations and set the context for everything that followed. In 2023, President Museveni publicly confronted members of his cabinet over the diversion of iron sheets that had been allocated to vulnerable communities in the Karamoja sub-region. People who had nothing, people who needed basic roofing to survive. Among those named in the diversion, Speaker Anita Among. She was among the officials who acknowledged receiving the iron sheets. She returned them. The former state minister for Karamoja, Agnes Nandutu, was the only official convicted and imprisoned 4 years. Others returned the materials, and the matter was largely closed at the official level. But it was not closed in the public mind, because the image of Uganda's third most powerful constitutional officer receiving iron sheets meant for some of the country's poorest communities. That image did not go away. Then came the Rolls-Royce. The Speaker's office acquired a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, a vehicle that costs in the region of 2.2 billion Uganda shillings, according to reporting by the Daily Monitor. The car is, technically, property of the office rather than the individual. Any speaker can use it. That technical distinction did not particularly comfort the Ugandan public, because Mulago, Uganda's national referral hospital, has been running short of basic supplies, medicines, equipment, basic consumables. The conversation Ugandans were having in homes and in WhatsApp groups and on X was a simple one. How do you justify a Rolls-Royce at the Speaker's office when Mulago cannot stock basic medicines? Nobody in the official space gave a satisfying answer to that question, which is how these things tend to go. Point 5. The speakership race, the withdrawal. Now let's talk about this week, because this is where the story becomes genuinely interesting. The 12th Parliament has been sworn in. The MPs are seated. The speakership race is open. Among declared. Her deputy, Thomas Tayebwa, declared. The two of them had received an endorsement in March from the Patriotic League of Uganda, the PLU, which is chaired by General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of President Museveni and Chief of Defense Forces. That endorsement in Uganda's political landscape carries significant weight. Or it did. On Tuesday this week, the PLU formally withdrew that endorsement. The statement was precise. The endorsement of Anita Among and Thomas Tayebwa as candidates for Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the 12th Parliament is retracted and withdrawn with immediate effect. The PLU Secretary General, David Kabanda, was direct about why. He cited Among's lavish lifestyle. He cited the corruption allegations. He noted that this was not the first time the PLU had disagreed with Among on matters of corruption, referencing the earlier controversy around commissioners awarding themselves 400 million shillings each in what were described as service awards. The challengers have sharpened their positions in response. Democratic Party President Norbert Mao is contesting the speakership. So is Persis Namuganza. Both have framed their candidacy explicitly around the failures they attribute to Among's tenure, the corruption allegations, the lavish spending, the international sanctions, the erosion of Parliament's credibility as an oversight body. President Museveni, at the swearing-in ceremony just days ago, spoke directly about corruption. He said, and the timing of this statement was not lost on anyone, "I do not want to hear of corruption in Parliament. If there is corruption in Parliament, how will you control others? You are the oversight body." He did not name anyone. He did not need to. Where Among's candidacy goes from here is, at the time of recording this episode, genuinely uncertain. She still has support within Parliament. She reportedly bankrolled a significant number of electoral campaigns. In Uganda's political economy, that kind of investment tends to generate loyalty. But the international sanctions, the public anger, the withdrawal of PLU support, and the president's public remarks about corruption have created a situation where that loyalty is being tested in real time. Point 6, the bigger question. I want to zoom out for a moment because there is a question underneath this story that is more important than the story itself. How does this happen? Not, how did Among allegedly do these things? That question has answers, and we've covered them. The deeper question is, how does a system allow someone who is under US and UK sanctions for corruption, who was named in a scandal involving the theft of iron sheets from vulnerable communities, who faces allegations of moving billions of public shillings through private accounts, to remain in office and to declare for re-election and to be considered a serious candidate? Part of the answer is Uganda's political structure. Parliament's oversight of itself is limited. The mechanisms for removing a sitting speaker are constitutionally and politically complicated. And the ruling party's internal dynamics mean that external pressure, even from international governments, does not automatically translate into domestic consequence. Part of the answer is financial. The allegations about bankrolling campaigns, if accurate, describe a situation where access to resources creates political protection. where the people who would theoretically hold you accountable owe you something. And part of the answer is attention. The Uganda Parliament exhibition worked, in the sense that it generated public awareness, international consequences, and ultimately political costs. But it took a social media campaign, international governments, and sustained public pressure to move what formal accountability mechanisms should have moved years earlier. The activists and journalists who ran that campaign did the work that the institutions were not doing. That is worth noting, not as a criticism of individuals, as a description of a system that requires citizens to do the work of accountability because the formal mechanisms have not done it. Outro. So where does this leave us? Anita Among has not been convicted of any crime in a Ugandan court. That matters. It should be said clearly, and it should be respected. But the standard for holding the office of Speaker of Parliament, the body responsible for overseeing the government, is not merely whether you have been convicted of a crime. The standard is whether you command the credibility, the integrity, and the public trust required to perform that oversight function effectively. And that question, by almost any measure, has not been resolved in Among's favor. The UK sanctions, the US sanctions, the iron sheets, the 9.6 billion shillings, the Rolls-Royce, the withdrawal of endorsement, the President's public remarks about corruption in Parliament. These are not small things. Individually, each one is a problem. Together, they describe a tenure that has created more questions about the integrity of Uganda's legislative institution than any previous speakership. The 12th Parliament is just beginning. The MPs who will elect the Speaker are, right now, making a decision about what kind of Parliament Uganda will have for the next 5 years. They know everything we've just discussed. They have known it for a while. What they decide to do with that knowledge is the question. That's episode 8 of Explain It Like I'm From Uganda. Every Saturday, the topics you need, the facts in full. I'm Tobias. Share this with every Ugandan who is watching the speakership vote this week and wants to understand what they are actually watching. See you next Saturday.